motivation is comprised of primarily three factors. But before we get to those factors, what do you think the definition of motivation is? What is your definition? Yes.
To kind of like something that pushes you to do something.
Okay, something that pushes you to do something. Where do you hypothesize that thing comes from? Like, speaking for yourself personally,
Like
where do you think your motivation comes from?
maybe your childhood, maybe just things that are important to you.
Okay, so you're saying a little bit of nurture, like how you're raised, your environment, or things that are important to you, maybe how you were raised shapes what's important to you or values over time. Bless you. Anybody else? Motivation? Thing it is, motivation drove you to be where you are today in this classroom, at this school, trying to get a degree. And for what purpose, right? Think of this, is it to fulfill some sort of social idea? Meaning that you see maybe this was kind of pushed on you from society as a social force, maybe pushed on you from family, parents, peers. And they'll also drive you to do, greater things in life depending on how you view those particular things, your impression. So motivation comes from primarily three kind of areas, right? We'll say one is physiological, right? What's a physiological motivation? Something that motivates you physically. Yeah.
Like specific items you want, like cars, houses, would that be considered that?
Yeah, you could say, well, you could say that. Yeah, I definitely could see that as part of it. But what are some things you absolutely need and motivate you? Yeah, right? Food and water, right? So eventually your body will, stomach will growl, or your throat in your mouth get dry, and now you're motivated to go get something to eat or get something to drink, right? There's really nothing you can do about it, right? That's like automatic. So that's a physiological motivation. What is more of a cognitive motivation? Think of just brain-wise. What's something that motivates your brain? Think of why you're here, like why you're in class, why you're in school. Yeah, right? So you think cognitively, it's like, well, there's a motivation for curiosity to learn new things, right? We all search social media, the internet, because we're curious and fascinated. Human beings specifically are fascinated to learn new things, right? We think that it makes us more of a whole person, it makes us more of a better person. We fulfill some sort of desire to learn. And the last one is kind of more related to what you said in the back, social, right? We saw in previous chapters with the rat, right? We put one in an impoverished environment, no other rats around, very little resources, very little things to do. And we saw that rat dies earlier than the ones introduced into an environment with other rats, right? With more stuff to do, activities, so forth. So what is motivation socially? What are some social motivations out there you could think of? Some examples. Social motivations. What are some? Yes. Okay, so you can observe other people that want to do things. So they say, hey, I like to go on YouTube and look up motivating videos of what? Well, someone who can teach me how to make $1 million, $1 billion, right? I go on YouTube so someone can motivate me to travel to exotic places, right? Or you go on Instagram to be motivated by beauty, right? To see how beautiful someone else is, to try to imitate or replicate their beauty, right? That motivates you. Or to, maybe look at cars and be motivated right now. I want a cool car, right? So socially, we interact with other people or observe other human beings as a means for our own personal motivation. Now the theory is, were we motivated beforehand, or did just observing those people on the flip side motivate us to finally be aware that we like cars and we want to look this way, we want to buy this thing and that, right? So several different theories of how that comes about. All right, so we got four, including Maslow's. Anybody ever heard of Maslow's? Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs? High school? You've heard of it?
I think in sociology we like talked about it.
Yeah, big in sociology. Well, so hierarchy of needs is, you'll come across this the rest of your scholarly collegiate career, right? Hierarchy of needs is, it's very, very utilized in academia. But we got instinct theory, which is more evolutionary. We're saying basically we have innate motivations. We're born with instincts. Do you think instincts are motivations? Or do you think there's something different than motivations? Alright, okay, we'll come back to that as we get to it. Then we got drive reduction theory, which is a response to inner pushes and pull. As with hunger or thirst, right? You're driven to get rid of hunger, right, or thirst, or pull to fulfill some sort of desire dealing with that, right? So either the hunger pushes you towards food to go get it, or maybe you see food, you satisfy some hunger that wasn't even there in the first place, right? Which means you just ate something even though you weren't hungry. And third, we have arousal theory, right? Finding the right stimulation level, right? In this class, we always talk about homeostasis, which means human beings look to seek comfort. We're always looking to seek comfort, right? We say boredom is an anxiety. So if you're bored, you're gonna do something quickly to get rid of your boredom, right? Too much happiness can also be an anxiety. But you're trying to find the right level of temperature, the right level of how you feel on the inside, just a homeostasis. And then we got Maslow, right? Priority of some needs over others. So right now, you figure you're in a phase of your life where you prioritize education and possibly money over family, like producing the family. You say, that's not a priority of mine, right? You're not motivated to start a family right now, maybe, just hypothesizing. But you are motivated to go to school, get a degree, and possibly get a career, start a business, or something of the sort, right? So you're seeking to prioritize things as you evolve through life. So motivation drives, it's a desire or drive that energizes and directs you to a goal, right? So that would kind of be the simple definition of it. Desire or need, right? That creates some energy that directs you towards a specific goal. Like I say, food for hunger, water for thirst, some other social desires you have, try to fulfill them. Let's say here for school, we were trying to complete school as a desire in order to get something out of it, whatever that may be. So on the flip side, we got instincts, right? Complex behavior throughout species, unlearned fixed patterns. So we say instincts, you don't have to be taught them, right? We say babies automatically come out sucking, right? Automatically come out doing different things. No one had to teach the baby to do them. You therefore have instincts as you move along through life. So do other species of animals and whatnot, right? So there are unknown fixed patterns. And there's an assumption, right? Evolutionary psychology says that genes predispose some species typical behaviors, right? Basically saying genetics may be one of the major key factors for your personal motivation, right? That you just are given the information inside of you to want to do certain things. Who thinks that's true? That your particular genetics drive you to be where you are today. Everything you've done has led you because of your genes. Why do you say so?
Because my dad is a very hard worker, and I feel like some people don't have the motivation that I would have, like regarding work. Just used to work like 3 jobs at once to provide, and I feel like I kind of got it off of him, seeing him like work that hard all the time.
Now, if you, let's say your dad didn't come around as much, right? Let's say your dad was never really around. You think you would have the same exact work ethic?
I think it would kind of depend on the environment at the same time. I think it could have an effect, the genetics, but I think it's more in the environment that you're around.
It's more you observing your dad.
Right.
And you find that to be something of value, so now it's a value system you hold.
Right, like, if you were like, for example, in a household that really like, didn't really care to provide as much, and, I feel like that could also be used as a motivation to go out and provide for them. But I feel like it also, it depends on like the environment you're in. at the same
Okay,
time.
so yeah, so you can say maybe it's the environment, right? Your environment may shape you to be like, well, maybe it's both, right? So one will have to recognize that in an environment, say, I can't continue to do this, something has to change. And not everybody in such an environment would change. They may
Right.
say, I'm still gonna be lazy and never get out of the situation or change it, right? And so therefore, you're like, well, where did that come from to make you change it? Why would you be different than the other? And you could say, maybe that's genetics, right? You could say that part triggers in my mind that there's something wrong and creates an action or desire or need for me to change the situation, right? So maybe a little bit of both, right? Anyone else think that they're primarily shaped, like everything that led you to this point, who you are today, right? Like your achievements, the things that you want to do and do, it's because of your genetics primarily. Or you think it's more nurture? Who think it's nurture? Who think it's genetic? You think it's more environmental?
I think it's more nurture.
Okay, so it's just more observation, right? We're all in this classroom because we've established that we agree that, I guess we accept that this is what a classroom is, right? Socially, we've been exposed and nurtured, right? Oh, this is a classroom. This is a book. This is learning. This is what's needed to get from point A to point B in life. Get a degree, get a job, right? Some others may have rejected that theory and like, I disagree. Like, I'm going a totally different route, right? So maybe they were exposed to something different, but maybe it's also genetics too, that we see the exact same thing, we all think differently about it, right? We are motivated differently. Some people may see college and say, I have absolutely zero motivation for college. Someone else can say, I'm absolutely motivated to get my bachelor's, master's, medical degree, law degree, PhD, right? Because I have an innate drive to go from here to wherever ideally I want to be in life. So maybe it's a little bit of both. All right, drive reduction theory, right? Which basically say we have physiological needs create an aroused, motivated state. Right, so when physiological needs increase, so does the psychological drive to reduce those needs, which we said is called homeostasis, right? Pushed by the need to reduce drives, which in simple terms is we innately get a drive, right? We innately get something inside of us that arouses us, right, to do something in order to reduce the thing that arouses us. Right? We simply say, hey, we're aroused for hunger, we need something to eat, we need something to drink, or we're aroused by something we see, right? In order to satisfy this arousal, I must buy that shirt, right? I must get that degree, right? I must buy this car. I absolutely need to buy this car, right? I need to buy this makeup. I need to buy this. I need to buy that. I need that bag. There's an innate desire for the thing. The only way to get rid of that desire, to get to homeostasis, is to get that thing, obtain it, right? Do that specific thing. So this is pushed by a need to reduce drives and pulled by incentives. The incentives is the thing we are trying to get. So arousal theory, right? Some motivated behaviors can decrease rather than decrease, right? Which we call arousal. Human motivation aims to find optimal arousal levels, not to eliminate arousal. Is that true? Do you feel that you have a need to find optimal levels of arousal? Right? Do you just need to eat just to satisfy hunger, or do you need to eat something absolutely fantastic, something that's remarkable in taste and creativity? Or do you just eat something bland and be like, yeah, this covers my hunger, right? Hungry, I just need to satisfy hunger. There's nothing else to it. Or something above that. What do you think? Right? Think about it. We wear all of these clothes. We drive all of these cars. Right? We have all these laptops. And we say, hey, we could just have one that just take care of the task. Think of the 1,000 apps you have on your phone you absolutely do not use. All the stuff in your app on your laptop, you absolutely, it's like useless. You may use it once in a blue moon. All the clothes you have, you probably never wear, right? The car you probably paid too much for just because the bells and whistles, blah, blah, blah. Which means we have a tendency to maximize or optimize to satisfy that drive, right? We're like, hey, we don't just need a vacation, it needs to be, we don't just need to get out of town, we need to have an exotic vacation, right? It has to be something above and beyond. And that innately kind of shows how we lead ourselves to substance abuse. Because we all abuse everything, right? I abuse coffee, so really, like, I'm a drug addict. Professor Ross, you hooked on drugs, which one? Caffeine. Is it not a drug? Right? Just because the government or DEA said this is something different versus that, you can drink this and don't drink that. That's government, right? But at the end of the day, you can say, well, you look to optimize your caffeine intake, right? Maybe you don't need that much caffeine. That's ridiculous, right? So it leaves us to overeat, over-purchase, maybe even be overeducated, right? Maybe that much education is not necessary. Maybe it is necessary, depending on what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, human motivation aims to find optimal arousal levels, not to eliminate arousal. We're trying to take it as far as we can in terms of pleasure, which means we're more pleasure seeking than anything. Because think of even your thoughts provide pleasure. Maybe your belief in anything, your belief in anything brings you comfort. Without it, you would say, I would have extreme anxiety. I would be completely mentally lost, right? Therefore, you have an innate desire to even for thoughts, right? You desire particular thoughts because of how they make you feel. In which case, we'll talk about emotion. Right, so Yerkes Dodson's law states that moderate arousal leads to optimal performance. Is that true? Moderate arousal leads to optimal performance. Have you ever experienced that? Right? Being aroused too much, we just said, will make you overcompensate for things, in which case you become addicted. You can have very, unstable thoughts, right? But just moderate arousal probably leads you to your best optimal actions, right? Which means not doing too much. We say homeostasis is moderate. So being in homeostasis is probably the best the state in which you will perform best at, as opposed to the opposite. And then Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, right? Now I think will give us a graph on the next slide, I think. But think of the hierarchy of needs. You think of the stages and phases in life. Like, hey, I was a child, right? I was governed and taught by adults, right? Parents, teachers. And then I started moving to college. Now I'm in college. Now I'm slowly starting to have independent thoughts about things. I'm slowly maybe start to reject some notions or hypotheses that was posed upon me before, right? And now I want to make money and be more sustainable and independent. I think as you move beyond that, so what happens after you make the money? What do we observe that people tend to do after they make lots of money? After they've had the careers and yes?
How they want to and spend it, however they like.
Okay, they'll spend it, but let's say that's a motivation and drive, right? You want money to spend, so you want to buy yourself a nice car, a nice house, which you should, right? Buy all the stuff you want. But what happens after that? Because there's different phases come about.
You lose interest over time.
Yeah, it shows that your motivation for stuff tends to go down over time, right? It's like anything in life you get, you're not gonna wear the same old sweater for 5 years because you're bored of it, right? You're gonna see something you need new. You're not gonna drive the same old car. You're gonna get bored of that and see something new. In a relationship, you might get bored of the same person after so long, right? You might see somebody new and be like, oh, I'm gonna upgrade. But you tend to move up, right? You tend to change and evolve. So maybe as an observation, past the money, people say, well, made the money, now what? Maybe I'll give it back, right? Maybe say, hey, I've been very selfish and I've accumulated a ton of wealth. Maybe I did all the stuff, traveled, bought all the private jets, did all that. Now something inside me clicks and says, well, I'm gonna give it all back, right? I wanna find a way to help people. Because contrary to popular belief, the greatest satisfaction you can have is helping people. Right? That's why businesses survive, they actually provide for other people. And then beyond that, after you made the money, right? After you started the family, after you gave all the money back, what do you think happens beyond that? Where have you observed, say, your grandparents? Like what state of mind or state of being are they in? Right, think of your parents versus your grandparents, right? Your parents are still working hard, making a ton of money, and putting their children in school, providing all the stuff they need. But what's the difference between your grandparents and your parents in terms of how they think and view the world? You see any difference? Yeah.
Like, your parents are more like relaxed.
Yeah, I think that your grandparents have evolved and they've experienced all stuff. So they've moved up, quote unquote, pyramid, right? The life pyramid. And they say, well, what is, I guess, the ultimate goal of life? It's just to live, right? Maybe that's the mindset. And to figure out who you are and what you truly like. So it's like a shedding of yourself. And that's kind of what Maslow's talked about, right? So he starts off at the base. We need physiological needs. You absolutely need to eat and drink, else you will die. You need oxygen, else you will die, right? So these are base needs. You need safety too, right? Which means you need shelter. You can't just be out in the rain outside right now. You need some sort of shelter. You need to feel safe, right, at all times. So before people can fulfill their high-level safety needs, then there's psychological needs beyond that. So after you fulfill your safety needs, now you fulfill your mind. You say, well, what is my mind worth? What makes me happy, right? what makes me feel content? What is my ideal self I wanna be? So here's Maslow. So Maslow says we need to satisfy hunger and thirst, then we need to feel that the world is organized and predictable, need to feel safe, secure, and stable, right? We don't just wanna wander around in the desert, we wanna be in a place that has rules, is organized, we understand what the red light is, the green light is. We need things to have structure, right? Because it makes it more predictable. Then Maslow says, okay, you got those two things. Now beyond that, you need to feel belonging. Who here feels like they need to belong? Who here feels like they don't need to belong? That they could just be to themselves. You feel like you need nobody. You don't need to belong to anything. Why do you say that?
Cause I kind of like, it's nice to have that stuff, but, you're kind of like born by yourself, you know what I mean? And when, people survive in the wild, like they're by themselves, and I know interaction, or a lack of interaction is actually crazy mentally, but like, in order to just like strive and do better, like, you don't always need somebody.
But do you need people in order to get there?
Oh, for sure. Like, in terms of like using people to get to where you need to be, yes. But like,
Okay. So, right, we need to be loved and need to belong and accepted, need to avoid loneliness and separation, right? You don't know what you got till it's gone. That's kind of the thing, right? It's kind of like you be alone too long, then you feel lonely, and then you want to be with somebody, right? And then you be around people or be in a relationship, and you're like, hey, this is not the greatest too, right? This is not the perfect life, and maybe you exit the relationship. So I think we're constantly in flux. But do we need to belong? In some ways, yeah. Think of this, we're using somebody's idea of this building. Somebody built this building. Somebody built this technology you're using, right? Everything we do, someone has done it for us to use. We didn't invent most of this stuff, but we're utilizing it. So therefore, we do still have a social need in order to achieve our goals, right? If your goal is to have a career in such and such field, you need somebody to provide the job for you, right? You need a company full of people, right? So in some ways, even I would say in the immediate sense, we may think we don't need people and we do want to be isolated. Then the overall sense, it's kind of almost nearly impossible to escape belonging. All right, then we move to our fourth category up here, which is the need for self-esteem, achievement, competence, and independence, and a need for recognition and respect from others. Who here thinks it's important for you to be recognized and respected from other people? No? You can get. Why do you feel that way?
I think it is, because in order to be motivated to continue doing things, we need to see that we have other people following. I think a lot of times, the only thing that's gonna keep pushing you to do things that you wanna do is the respect and recognition.
Okay, so you say you need a stimulus or like an incentive, right? Maybe approval and respect from others is the incentive. You could say, hey, I want to be powerful, but why do you want to be powerful? Because power really derives from having power over people, right? So you have power over people, obviously you want something from them, which could either be fear, you want them to fear you, you want them to respect you, you want them to love you, right? Self-esteem, big one. Confidence, independence. What is self-esteem? Yes. Is that important? Who here feels that that's not important? Right? Probably nobody, right? Self-esteem is extremely important. How you feel about yourself is the ultimate thing, I would say. Right? All right, beyond that, Self-actualization needs, a need to live up to our fullest and unique potential. In your mind, you probably have an impression of some person you want to be in the future, right? Like, I see myself in 10, 15 years doing this, doing that, family, money, I achieved my goals, I achieved my career, I bought the house, I traveled, yada, 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 right? So you see an ideal self. Now, will you make it to the ideal self? Nobody knows, right? But you know, you probably, that is your navigating tool that's gonna direct your life to say, if I need to get there to feel fulfilled, these are the things that I need to do in order to do so, right? So we feel a need to live up to our fullest and unique potential. And then last but not least, we have self-transcendent needs, a need to find meaning and identity beyond the self. What does that mean? Beyond the self. A need to find identity beyond the self. And a meaning. Yes.
I know, like, how we talk about how older people are finding out what they want in life, and life overall, like personally, so maybe figuring out how you contribute to life overall, and how you help others in this.
Yeah, there could possibly be one, right? One could be God, right? Maybe at the highest echelons, maybe what this is saying, behind all of this, right? We ate, we got the house, we're secure, people love us, respect us, got a family. We feel absolutely great about ourselves, right? We finally achieved the person we want to be, and then we wake up and we say, now what? Right? Maybe then David said we did a lot of things that human beings just created, just social creations. Like, actually, maybe they don't mean absolutely nothing. We could create anything at any point. Maybe at the top it may be self-transcendence, beyond you. You recognize there's something out there, all of this is beyond you, right? Maybe you stop paying attention to your physical self so much, right? Maybe you don't become so self-indulged and you say, hey, I have a spirit, right? Maybe I'm just a spirit inside of a sack of flesh. Maybe it's things that are do good for other people that's important. Maybe it's just helping others, right? Doing stuff outside of yourself. Because all of this has to do with you. This all kind of seems self-centered in some way. At this point, you're like, oh, it's for others, right? Life is about helping others to become, I guess, our greatest self, right? It's about helping. All right, so here they're just getting a representation of kind of what we talked about, right? Need for food and water, drive, hunger and thirst, and drive reducing behavior will be eating or drinking. All right, the need to belong, the affiliation need, right? We have social media, right? Which deals with a need to belong. We're on social media, we're on there for a reason. It's not because we want to isolate ourselves, because we want people to see what we're doing, right? So that they can either like or comment or something of the sort. Give some sort of validation. So that's a human central emotion, motivation to build relationships and feel part of a group. Think of this, who's part of a group here? Who can identify some groups that they are part of? Yes.
Like, extracurricular, like, baseball team or something.
All right, so baseball team, like you feel maybe it's like a brotherhood or something, right? What else? What's some other groups? I think you're students, right? You're students. Part of a group. You don't have to be students. You make choices and motivated to be students, right? And being a student, part of the academic body, is a group. So being part of a group enhances our survival skills, right? more than one is better than one in order to survive, right? It colors our thoughts and emotions, which means we need other people to interact with, to tell us about how we feel, what they think about it, their opinions, right? Share our thoughts with people so that we can get some sort of feedback. It's related to health, performance, and self-esteem, right? Self-esteem is really viewed by how others kind of project on us, right? In that feedback, how we respond to it, to think if what they're saying is true or false. And it thwarts loneliness and social isolation, which we say is extremely important to health and wellness, right? Being part of a group is better than none. And so we got self-determination theory, which deals with competence, autonomy, and relatedness. All right, being shut out, ostracism, social exclusion threatens the need to belong and causes pain. Who here feel like they've been ostracized at some point in their life, for whatever reason? Cut off, yes. You have anything you want to share, or a generic version of it?
I mean, going through the middle school, high school, I was allowed to have any social media.
Okay.
And I left that a lot. I guess they found because I didn't have.
From your peers?
Yeah.
Okay, so you feel ostracized from your peers because they're able to have access to things and look at things, and you are not, right? Did it cause you pain?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I should have it, like I felt like I was wrong. I didn't realize that people value different things.
Yeah.
My
But
values were wrong.
think of that, like that belongingness causes us trauma. So maybe, if you were bullied in school, right? Causes trauma because you feel that you were ostracized as being weak or something of the sort, right? If you want to be part of a group of people in high school and they wouldn't accept you, right? They didn't like your personality or the way you dress, or hair, or whatever. It causes pain, right? So it threatens our need to belong. A big one now for everyone in modern society is social media ostracism causes similar pain. What is some social media ostracism? What's an example of that? Yes.
I feel like body image for both female and male, like they have a standard how you have to look.
Yeah, so there's some sort of ideal beauty standard of how you should look, and if you don't fit that narrative, that group, then you are lesser than somebody, right? What else? Social media. Being ostracized. Think of this. Think if people don't like your picture. You don't get no likes. Right? You might feel ostracized. Feel like if some people unfriend you, some people block you, unfriend you, you're like, oh man, that hurt, right? That was bogus, right? That you did that. You feel ostracized. So with social media, it does something, it triggers us. And now we're angry, we're upset, right? We have all these emotions because of, when you really think about it, you're like, oh man, because of belonging, I guess, right? We feel this way because people wanted us to belong in a group or be a certain way in their group. Think of people who reject you because of your politics, because of your religion, right? You be ostracized because you're Muslim, you're Catholic, you're Lutheran, you're this, you're that, right? Nobody want to mess with you. You can't go in certain places. Be ostracized for all types of stuff, right? Maybe your ethnicity, maybe your race, maybe your sex, maybe all sorts of things. And then the pain focuses and motivates corrective action, positive and negative remedies, which just means like, what are you going to do to change that if you find a need to change that, right? Are you going to do some positive things or are you going to do some negative things? All right, more on mobile networks and social media provide information and supportive connections amongst friends and family. So here they're saying that that's positive, right? You got supportive connection. Social network activate reward centers in the brain, right? You put up a picture and 1,000 people liked it, right? Got your account, 1 million people follow. Immediately we think that that's a reward. Oh, I must be awesome, right? I feel great because other people, I guess, like ever say so. Right, so we feel rewarded. Also functions as a matchmaker, right? Online dating, things like that. Predict longer life when used in moderation. Right, so we say everything typically in moderation, which is that homeostasis, right? Not too much, not too little of anything. It's good, it's healthy in moderation, and overuse would be an abuse like anything else and have severe consequences. Enable comparisons that can create envy and depression, right? Looking at social media, you're constantly comparing, how come I don't look like that? How come I don't have that type of money? How come I can't travel like that? How come I can't have that car, right? All these sorts of things, which can cause depression, right? Because we're constantly rating ourselves from people, even though sometimes people we'll never meet ever in our lives. And support narcissistic tendencies, right? Which is just to be self-indulged. All right, some strategies for maintaining balance and focus, right? It's to monitor your time, I guess you're saying here with social media. Monitor your time on social media, right? Don't overindulge with it. Monitor your feelings, which is extremely important. That's one I think that most people, even clients that I have, they don't examine their own feelings, right? And really it's like their first instinct or impression to their feelings is the one they stick with and never see it in a different way. Which just means if you're angry, why are you angry? And do you have to be angry? Right? If you say if you're in control of your thoughts, can you turn anger off? Can you turn depression off? Right? Can you change these emotions if you truly control your mind and thoughts? Well, a lot of people can't, right? Contrary to popular belief. So you could try to monitor and just do your best. Hide from incessantly posting online. Posting online friends when necessary. Too much posting, I guess, bad. All right. Check phone and email less often when studying. You know, focusing is extremely important. We think that we are excellent multitaskers, but all the science and research show that the more you multitask, the worse you do at every particular thing you're doing in that event. Right? You can't master 10 things doing them at once. And we're saying refocus and take a nature walk, which is one of my favorite things to do. All right, achievement motivation, desire for significant accomplishment, for mastery of skills and ideas, for control, and for attaining the highest standard. Getting a college degree, once you walk that stage, do you think that's going to be a significant achievement in your life? Will you view it as one? Yeah? Who here is getting their master's degree? Right, so we got people already preparing beyond just the achievement of bachelor's. We want to go further beyond. So I get asked a lot about like getting a PhD. I did a year at law school, got my MBA, PhD, and then the interesting thing is like a sense of accomplishment. It fades, right? Sometimes I forget that I have a PhD, whatever. But at that time when it happened, yes, it was absolutely a wonderful accomplishment because I think less than 0.3% of people in the country have it. High motivation achievers, right? Accomplish more, which means people who are motivated succeed. Doesn't mean the people who are smartest succeed. Smarts, intelligence don't relatively have anything to do with, I would say, common general standards of success, right? Which is like career, money, power, things of that nature, right? Motivation accomplishes more, greater financial success, healthier social relationships, and emotional well-being. So having the motivation exceeds almost any other skill you can have, right? You can be exceptional, you can be a genius, but if you're not a motivated genius, the person who's motivated, who's half the intelligence of you will far exceed you in life. Demonstrate persistence, self-discipline, grit, and intrinsic motivation, which is important. Can you motivate yourself? Right? So think of that with social media. Hey, do you go on there for motivation? You go on YouTube to get motivation. But someone says, I don't need none of that. I literally can sit in a dark room and motivate myself. Right? I'm in control of my motivation. All right, we'll end off here. Any questions before we go? All right, still working on your grades. They'll all be in before the end of day Wednesday. Yeah, and we're good. And then coming back from spring break, I said we'll start working on our group projects. Group project presentation. So that's it. You guys have a great day.